Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. I know many of you are trying to come to terms with a person's propensity toward narcissism. You're asking how far down the spectrum might that individual be in this particular pattern. And one of the things we watch for that's going to tell us a lot about where that person is to watch how strongly entrenched that individual's false self is. Narcissists in their public persona try to present themselves as someone that they really ultimately are not. There's so many things about who they are that they conveniently overlook and they don't want you to know about, and they try to present themselves as being much more than what they really are. And so much of a narcissist's inclination towards maintaining a false front, a false self, has to do with the way that they have learned to deal with what they refer to as their shadow self. Now let's understand, every one of us has a shadow self. And when we talk about that, we're basically referring to some of the things about you that you don't particularly want other individuals to know, or you don't particularly want to confront on the inside of yourself. The shadow self can consist of elements on the inside of you that you might consider to be unacceptable, or they're just some negative traits that you've had, or they're experiences that you don't want to go into and you don't want to talk about. It may be that you've had confused feelings, or you've had experiences that have just been very traumatic, and you can hold those in to the extent that you just don't look at them, you don't reveal it, and you just don't want to go into that space. That becomes part of your shadow self. Now, we might even ask the question, is your shadow self completely unconscious or subconscious? And the answer is sometimes it can be. Sometimes that your suppression of your experiences and feelings have been going on for so long that you don't even know how to access them anymore. Other times, though, the shadow self is part of a deliberate effort on your part just to keep other individuals from knowing you as fully as they might. Let me give you some examples of what we're talking about when we talk about what consists of an individual's shadow self. For example, one of the primary themes that we know that is part of the shadow self is when individuals have conflicted feelings about their own sexual urges, or temptations, or experiences that they've had in the realm of sexuality, and they can look and think, I've had a lot of confusion, or I've had a lot of hurt or abuse that have gone along with that, or I just didn't know how I was supposed to manage myself. Sometimes the shadow self consists of the fears that you carry on the inside of you. It may be that you've been exposed to very intimidating individuals, or dismissive or judgmental kind of people, and you began realizing, okay, there are certain things that I can say and can't say, and you fear being exposed because of all of that. Sometimes the shadow self consists of lots of experiences related to your anger or resentment, or feelings of hurt and disgust and contempt, and you just don't even want to go into that space. Or maybe you have a lot of agitation, but you don't know how to identify it and access what that emotion is trying to say. Many times the shadow self can include just humiliating experiences that you've been through. And it could have been as a child where you were humiliated and degraded. It could be that, for example, as an adult, you've had some bad experiences you don't want anybody to know about. I've talked with individuals who were fired from the job because of some illegal activities, perhaps, or they had a divorce and there were some things that they did in the divorce. It's like, I don't want anybody to know about that. Things of that nature. And so your shadow self can consist of those kinds of experiences and the emotion that goes with it. Sometimes your shadow self includes things like your own unresolved feelings of inadequacy and uncertainty, or the failures you don't know how to manage on the inside of yourself. Sometimes it might be that your shadow self consists of frustrating or embarrassing or confusing facts about people you're connected to. For example, if you had a family member that committed suicide, or there's somebody who that you are very closely attached to who's has a lot of addictions, or maybe you've had some of the suicidal ideations or addictions and things. It's like, I don't want to get into that space. The shadow self is all of that goes that's residing on the inside of you that you want the least number of people to know. Now, as you examine people who are in the pattern of narcissism, one of the things we're going to see very quickly is these are individuals who are sprinting away from their shadow self. They're running away from it. They don't want to have any association with it. And as a result, there are multiple patterns that begin to emerge because of their fear of confronting their shadow self. For example, we can have the pattern where they have a fear of becoming very vulnerable. Narcissists have a desperate fear of showing themselves to be hurting or inadequate. It's like, you are not going to hear me talk about some of the personal things in my life. Or another thing that this sprinting and running away from the shadow self does is it sets up that person in the narcissistic pattern to have a chronic, ongoing tendency towards defensiveness. They can put a very thick shield around themselves. You will not get to know me. They go into heavy cover-up mode regarding some of their flaws or failures. They use a lot of denial, or they justify. And then right along with that, what they'll do is they try to take preemptive strikes in talking about your faults and failures. They cover theirs up, but they want to expose yours. And typically they use a lot of projection. They'll see in you some of the things that they can't come to terms with on the inside of themselves. It's kind of like they're saying, well, I'm going to put shame onto you for your feelings or your mistakes before you do the same thing to me. That's what I mean when I say they take the preemptive strike. And so many times when they're belittling you or they're playing the one-upmanship game, there's that element that's going on that they're just not revealing to you. And maybe they're not even consciously aware that they're doing it in that moment anyway towards you. Or another pattern that this leads to is they run away from their own shadow self is they'll invalidate feedback that comes from others. For example, if you say, I can tell you really are conflicted about this, or I know that you've been through this experience. What was that like for you? Or let's talk about, what I know to be true and accurate about you. They'll come back very, very commonly, and they'll let you know that you're not valid, or you're not being honest about things. They cannot agree on what you're trying to get them to admit to. And so they'll invalidate you as you try to talk about their humanity. It's like, no, there must be something wrong with you. You just don't perceive things very well. And then in addition, as these individuals try to run away from their own shadow self, a very natural byproduct is they're very prone toward anger. They get triggered really easily. For example, if you say something that prompts them to have to take a hard look at themselves, instead of saying, okay, let's do that, they'll just come at you with all this vengeance. It's like, you're trying to make me feel real uncomfortable, and I don't like that, which then leads to another of the patterns that goes along with them running away from their shadow self, and that is they go into the victim role. People in my world have just made me feel miserable for so long, and I hate it, and I can't stand the way people treat me, and I've got to beat them at their game before they beat me at my game. They do a lot of displacement. They carry a lot of hurt, but instead of examining it and doing something constructive with it, they just unload their hurt on someone else. It's the old adage of, I can't get along with this person over here, and I'm frustrated, so I just become real agitated towards this person over here that has nothing to do with it. That's what displacement is. Or in addition, when you're running away from your shadow self, it usually results in you having a very poor management of boundaries. It could be that you'll refuse to accept other people's boundaries. In other words, you want to stay in control of them. It could be that you'll be very rigid regarding your own boundaries. It's like, I am not about to let anybody on the inside. Or it could be that you have very sloppy boundaries in that you don't stand for anything and people can walk all over you. People who have not come to terms with their shadow self have boundaries issues galore. Now, see, let's underscore, every one of us has a shadow self. And the sooner we can say that, and the sooner we can say there are things about me that I find perplexing or I wish hadn't happened or I'm confused about, but I need to get down to the bottom of it. And you're open and you're honest. And so your discussion or your exploration of your shadow self becomes part of your true self. Then we can know that you're going to be going in a healthy direction. But as I mentioned, narcissists are so committed to their false self that they can't even admit that there's that shadow self that's there. Or if they admit it, they'll say it's none of your business, get out of here. Now, to underscore what's really happening here, the real problem with an individual who goes deeper and deeper into narcissism and they cannot come to terms with their shadow self, the real problem is their egotism. In their egotism, and that's their need to be special and the best and entitled and superior, it's like, I am not about to show myself as being fragile. I'm not about to show myself as being, human. I have to stay in control. And they completely sidestep any invitation to examine who they are. If you say, well, we're all a mixed bag of pluses and minuses, it's like, well, we can't talk about that relative to me. Or if you say, well, let's just be honest with each other and let's have accountability and let's go into a learning process together. It's like, no, I don't do that. There's one truth that narcissists have a hard time accepting relative to this particular topic, and that is the best way to break the hold of the shadow self over your personality is to put a spotlight on it. Go in there and take a hard look at what it's all about. That's what I did as a therapist and with close friends and advisors. You can do that the same thing. Put a spotlight on your shadow self with the idea that says, I'm going to bring it out into the open, and now that it's something that I can see, I can do something with it, and I can make some headway. Narcissists is like, nope, I run from that as fast as I can, and as a result, they're stuck with these patterns that emerge from that. So I'm hoping that even as you observe this in them, and it may be that you'll never be able to help them or assist them in their efforts, I'm hoping you can decide, well, I have a shadow self and I'm going to do something with it. I want to know what it is and how it got there and what I can do about it so that it doesn't have a drag effect on me. And in doing so, then you're going to be able to be somebody that says, I'm on Team Healthy and I'm staying here because that's where I belong. Now, I hope that videos such as this can give you some good awareness of what you're dealing with, what's in front of you, and what's on the inside of yourself. That's what we're trying to do here with our Team Healthy approach. If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. Hit the like button that goes along with it. Hit that bell so that we'll keep more videos coming in your direction. If you have a need for therapy, and many times as you're trying to come to terms with your own shadow self, it can be very helpful to have somebody that can help you unpack that. I'm so pleased to be sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. There's a whole team of licensed professional therapists that can assist you. We have a link below that will take you to their services. And if that's something you would need, I would strongly encourage you to go into that direction. We also have my therapeutic courses. And with each of the course, it's like signing up for an online class. We have multiple videos with lots of written documents, guided questions that will assist you. One is Ready, Set, Connect, about making connection skills. This is me about setting those boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite the controllers. We also have my webinars that are of a different nature, and we have tabs on our website that can take you to that, as well as our podcast and my books and many other resources. The shadow self is real. It's part of what we carry on the inside. The shadow self has less and less of a grip on you when you can be open and honest and accountable regarding that, something that narcissists are totally afraid of. But I'm hoping you can say, well, I want to be honest about who I am, because in the end, it allows you to be a lifelong learner. You're in an ongoing growth mode, and that sets you up then to become a person of peace.